Disclaimer. I'm going to be talking about Chainsaw Man in its entirety, way past where the anime ended to chapter 117 of the manga, so big spoiler warning. Okay, here we go. So, the anime adaptation for Chainsaw Man completed its first season, and it was a fantastic production. Animation was stellar throughout, the voice acting for everyone fit the characters to a T, and the anime-only scenes were wonderful additions. My main man Kensuke Ushio absolutely nailed the soundtrack, which, to be fair, was to be expected from the same guy who gave us the wonderful OSTs for Devilman Crybaby and Ping Pong the Animation. Many anime struggle to have a single memorable ending, but Chainsaw Man had 12 absolute banger ending songs, including ending 3, which still doesn't have a full version out, and I will never forgive Maximum the Hormone for holding out on us. But yeah, I'm really happy with it. Even if the anime only covered about half of part 1 of the manga, it was still a great time. The production team over at MAPPA deserved time to rest for their efforts, but something tells me they won't be getting that rest anytime soon. Really, there's so much to talk about in regards to the content that Chainsaw Man delivers, and it had me thinking for a while about what exactly to make a video on. I could do an overall analysis and review of the series. I've been following it since the literal day the first chapter dropped, and it's been admittedly pretty crazy seeing the series blow up in popularity. I could also do a video talking about Kobeni, as a lot of my followers on Twitter know that I'm kind of a big fan of her, and it would be interesting to look at her, not just as a character, but the huge fan following she amassed despite not being all too prominent during part 1. But I think at the end of the day, I decided to settle on a video talking about the main character, Denji. He's not just a good kid, I think he's a great kid, and I think he deserves so much more credit than how people on social media describe him. I'm going to try my best not to turn this video into an hour-long summary of Chainsaw Man, so I'm going to try to stick to the key moments and thoughts that stuck to me regarding Denji throughout this series. Around the time the anime for Chainsaw Man started airing, I noticed that Denji started to garner a negative reputation around him. And for context, I'm going to grossly generalize typical Shonen Jump protagonists into 3 categories. You got meathead protagonists who are good-natured and love to fight, like Luffy and Goku. You got protagonists that are good boys, very sweet, but got a little edge here and there, like Tanjiro, Deku, and Senku. Lastly, you got protags that are good people, but there's something inherently wrong with them mentally, like Yuji, Gon, and our boy Denji. Motivations are a key factor to consider. Luffy wants to be the king of the pirates, Tanjiro wants to restore his sister's humanity, Deku wants to enforce a police state, etc. Denji, however, has the simple goal of just wanting to live a normal life. He wants to be able to eat buttered toast with jam, he wants a girlfriend, he wants a roof over his head, and does not need to worry about paying off the debt his father left behind. Taking place in 1997 Japan, the economy is in shambles, and so is the world in general. Devils run amok, and organized groups like the Yakuza are relying on their powers in order to gain the upper hand. Denji's father owed debts to the Yakuza, leaving Denji in this state of yearning. He yearns for companionship, and the first mention of this dream is to Pochita, the closest thing Denji had to a friend. Denji spots a wounded Pochita bleeding out by his father's tombstone and offers him some blood in exchange for them making a pact together. This pact would ultimately save Denji's life, as, upon getting killed by the zombie devil, Pochita is able to revive Denji, restore his heart under the condition that he's able to see Denji live out his dreams of normalcy. It's a really sweet moment and a wonderful introduction to Denji, Pochita, and the setting of Chainsaw Man in general. Upon his resurrection, Denji thinks to himself, these guys already had plenty. How come they want an even better life? Maybe I'm the same. I should have been happy as long as I had Pochita, but I still dreamed of a better life. And from then on out, he's Chainsaw Man. By all means, he should have resonated with everyone. A poor kid, down on his luck, whose only friend is his dog. No parents to speak of, and he was forced to literally sell his body in order to pay a debt to the Yakuza. Why do so many people see poor Denji in a bad light? Well, I'm pretty sure you know. Makima. I could do a video on Makima alone, and I might in the future, but for now, I'm gonna focus on her relationship with our boy Dennis. Sticking to chapter 1, she gives him 2 options, die as a devil or live as a pet. Death is pretty self-explanatory, but being Makima's pet has its own benefits. You get 3 square meals a day, you get a roof over your head, and you have the prospect of getting with a pretty girl. And let's be honest for a second, when you spent your entire life living in a tool shed with your chainsaw dog, hunting down life-threatening demons for $5, and you were given the option to sell your soul in exchange for food and shelter, the choice kind of becomes obvious. Also, I just want to throw in that the description for Danny at the front of the volume literally says, likes Makima, the first person to ever treat him like a human being. The sad thing though is that after Makima is introduced, so many people seem to forget the meaningful heart-to-heart that Denji had with Pochita. They forget about Denji's dream to live a normal life and instead focus on the fact that he's into Makima, and really, can you blame him? Poor Dennis, he never had a mother figure, and Makima was the closest thing he had to it. Fujimoto has gone on record saying that Makima's name is derived from Mama, and another thing to think about is how chainsaws were originally created in order to aid with childbirth. I'm not trying to imply any sort of Oedipus complex here, I don't want to get into Xenogears, but like, give the poor kid a break. He doesn't know how to handle himself, let alone speak to a woman, and not to mention, his luck with women isn't really so hot throughout the manga. Power tries to kill him, Reese tries to kill him, Kobeni tries to kill him, Asa tries turning him into a weapon, Himeno wants to sacrifice him to the Eternity Devil, Makima in her entirety. He's confused, he's lost, this has become his new normal and he's having trouble adapting to it. And speaking of adaptations, the anime adaptation of Chainsaw Man unfortunately cuts out this really good piece of characterization with Denji in Chapter 2. It involved Denji hunting down the Muscle Devil after reportedly kidnaps a little girl. After being promised warm food, Denji is ordered to follow Makima's command to either kill the Muscle Devil or risk being put down instead. So as Denji runs through the forest trying to hunt down the devil, he's angry and he's thinking about how Makima was nice and he even liked her a little, but ultimately feels angry for being treated like a dog. And it's really a shame that they cut this sequence from the anime, as it involves Denji finding the girl with the Muscle Devil, realizing that the relationship reminds him of Pochita, and offers for the three of them to run away together, with the girl running from her abusive dad, and Denji running from his abusive mom. Of course, the Muscle Devil was playing Denji for a fool, to which Denji slap-chops him without remorse, and afterwards the chapter plays out like episode 2 of the anime for the most part. But I do think this brief altercation with the Muscle Devil sets a lot of the groundwork for Dennis and Malcolm Moore's relationship. He wants a mother figure, as he really needs someone to take care of him, but right from the beginning he realizes he's being used, and as characters like Aki and Power are introduced, he's able to put aside these feelings of doubt and move on, but those seeds have been planted and they're gonna stay there for a good while. There's more instances of Dennis being a good kid in Chapter 4. Like, okay, sure, when he first moves into Aki's apartment, he's a slob and he sings about unions and makes a binging with Babish bread. But he gets better, okay? Okay, yes, I know, this is also the same chapter that he realizes he wants to touch some boobs, but wait, there's actually a key character moment there that's actually going to help us out later. Right before the boob revelation, he reflects on the events of his life so far. He got his dream of a normal life, got the ability to bathe and eat every day with a cute girl nearby, but he still feels unfulfilled. From there, he concludes, oh, my true goal is an extension of my pre-existing goal. I don't simply want to be near a cute girl, I need to grab some boobs. And maybe then he'll feel some fulfillment. He doesn't, but I mean, you can't win them all. Dennis the Criers like to bring up points such as him trying to get with Makima, him trying to rescue Meowie in order to feel a power, everything involving Himeno, but I'm still going to be on Team Dennis in these situations. I've said my piece about Makima, but in terms of power, Denji just lowered his bar and figured he could settle with power, but he didn't feel anything from it. He almost scored with a drunken Himeno, but refused her advances, concluding that he wanted to do it with Makima, which isn't any better because she's still an adult. This goes back to his inherent obsession with Makima, which is showcased in the anime in a bunch of ways, such as the excellent ending 3. The fact that he rejected getting with Himeno shows that Denji doesn't just crave sex, but there's something else missing. And hey, on the topic of Himeno, let's talk about her death! In chapter 29, Denji finds himself unable to cry for her. He considered Himeno a friend, sure, but the tears just won't come out. He instead takes the time to reflect on how he'd react to the deaths of Power, Aki, and Makima. He thinks he wouldn't really care if Power Aki died, but then spends a little time thinking about how he'd react to his mother figure dying. He'd be down for a little while, but go back to normal in 3 days because, you know, as long as he has his 3 square meals a day, a good night's sleep, and a hot bath, he's living a life of luxury. At the end of this thought, he stands there dumbfounded and goes, "Did I lose not just my organ heart, but my human heart as well?" And this is later brought up in chapter 36 with the Katana Devil trying to inflict psychological torment on this literal child, but it doesn't work regardless. Normal logic doesn't always apply to Denji. The kid still has his morals and is going through a transformative time period of his life. Not only is he a 16-year-old who is dealing with puberty, but he's also dealing with his life literally being turned upside down. He doesn't think much of his dead teammates and isn't too fond of revenge. He has his own goals and morals that help guide him throughout life, but he also knows that he needs the brains and the bronze. Working alongside Power, the duo realize that they're capable of thinking. They both have half a brain cell, so combined, they're able to formulate a single thought that can aid in combating Kishibe. And of course, in order to have a working brain, you need a functional heart behind it, or vice versa, I'm not certain. Anyways, chapter 39 helps affirm Denji that he does indeed have a heart. He's hyped to go on a date with Makima, and after watching a whole bunch of films with her, without eliciting much of a reaction, he's finally able to cry at the last one, to which Makima cries as well. Whether Makima is crying because she's sad or because Denji is crying is really up to interpretation, but what matters is that Denji cried and that the film stuck with him. Are heartless people capable of enjoying movies? Maybe, but it doesn't apply to Denji because he has a heart. He has such a heart that he's willing to donate to charities and eat flowers and also fall for any girl that happens to be nice to him. It's comedic to say the least, but you gotta remember that this guy has the social skills of a rodent, and he's sadly taken advantage of as a result, not just by Makima, but by Reese as well. Reese is her own can of worms. Whereas Makima takes advantage of Denji's desire for companionship, Reese seems to hone in on Denji's cravings for a normal life. He wants to be able to go to school, learn how to read and write, hang out in clubs, the works. Unlike Makima, however, it feels like Reese genuinely sympathizes with Denji. He parades around having a bed and food while Reese tells him that's the bare minimum of standard living, to which Denji decides to move on from the conversation. And I'm sure you noticed by now, but this theme of Denji wanting to run away from his problems is prevalent throughout the entire series. You have Denji wanting to run away with the Muscle Devil girl, wanting to run away with Power, and in this case, it's Reese offering Denji the opportunity to run away from it all. In this instance, Denji actually refuses Reese's proposal, but then after a little fight, Denji proposes once again the idea of running away. And this doesn't really go too well, but it shows that Reese generally did feel a sort of kinship toward Denji. Both were uneducated tools of destruction that were taken advantage of by forces outside their control, the Russians in Reese's case, and Makima in Denji's case. The arc ends up culminating with Denji waiting at Reese's place of work with a bouquet of flowers, only for her to never arrive. It's a sad scene, and it's honestly kind of fun to see how Denji deals with loss. Almost as fun as seeing him deal with death. Anyways, remember how he said he wouldn't care if Aki or Power died? Yeah, let's see how he reacts. So, after some fun times with Makima, Aki ends up turning into the Gun Devil and makes his way back home. Hey, here's the door again. Throughout the series, and even in the anime, Denji has been repeatedly told not to open the door. It's much easier to run from the door and what lays behind it than to actually open and accept it. After spending all of his life running, Denji decides to finally open the door, only to be greeted by Aki's smiling face. Hell ensues, and after a tragic snowball fight, Denji emerges victorious. So, how does he react? Does he react in the way he said he would? After all, he did say that he really wouldn't care. Maybe you expect him to throw his hands up in triumph or, celebrate, hoot and shout. Denji killed Aki. He tries all sorts of means of distracting himself. Him and Power move into a new house, new food, and spends a lot of time with Power playing video games and watching movies. They even get to enjoy ice cream together. Denji killed Aki. The weight of this causes him to collapse and vomit. He cannot think straight, and in a moment of weakness, he confides to Makima, whom he begs to help, who also just so happened to be there. Thinking has taken its toll on Denji. Once a tool used by him and Power to overcome Kishibe, Denji's growing consciousness has taken its toll and reduced him to a dog. With one final command from Makima, Denji opens one final door and reveals an awaiting Power, and, with a bang, she is no more. He isn't even given the luxury of processing the horror that unfolded, and is just left in shambles. There's something kinda poetic about Makima telling Denji that he killed his dad in self-defense, only to immediately go, "Someone like you has no right to wish for a normal life, do they?" Denji just wanted to live a normal life, but he gets relentlessly beaten for it, not just in-universe, but online as well. So many people dog on Denji, and for what? The kid has been to literal hell and back, but he just wants to be able to live. Is that really so selfish? He's aware of his flaws and lives in purposeful ignorance. He lays his emotions bare to Kobeni, ultimately concluding that he'd always be living in obedience to somebody, just like a dog. Kobeni, in a really sweet scene, just says that his feelings are all normal, and there's really no such thing as a life that's free from bad things. In one of the best scenes in the entire series, Denji is dumbfounded and says that all he wanted was to be normal. To which Kobeni simply responds, "You wanna be normal, Denji?" as he stares at her in silence. Then, on a TV, he hears it. Chainsaw Man. On the news, Chainsaw Man. Hero of Hell, Chainsaw Man. Merchandise, banners, t-shirts, anime, Chainsaw Man. I've seen edits of the specific page all the time, but the original page is so much sadder in context. A mentally broken Denji, stripped of everything, clings on to the last remnants of hope he has, Chainsaw Man, and in this moment he truly snaps. He doesn't want a normal life anymore. He wants one where he can eat steak every morning. He's in tears, sobbing and acknowledging that it isn't right, but he expresses a juvenile want of 10 girlfriends and loads of sex. It can be interpreted as comedic or childish, but in reality it's just depressing. It all started because of Makima, and it just ends with Makima. It culminates with Denji realizing that Makima never even cared about Denji, she only cared about Chainsaw Man. And so it begins with Chainsaw Man, and ends with him as well. So after grueling battles through waves and waves of Makima and her goons, he finally puts an end to it all, and despite everything, despite the literal hell that Makima subjected Denji to, he still loved her in the end. So, what is he doing now? Following Makima's death, she reincarnated as Nayuta, and Denji began to take care of her. Whereas Makima was a mother figure to Denji, Denji is a father/a big brother figure to Nayuta, and is actually really sweet, and this behavior is further shown off in part 2. And look, I know, Denji is taking used cigarettes off the street and selling them to homeless people, but he's doing it in order to raise money for Nayuta's college fund, so I mean, is it really that bad? His old personality is still there, he's adamant about revealing his Chainsaw Man identity to the public, and he's also willing to sell himself as a chair in order to make money. But at the same time, he truly grew as both a character and a person. He's more adamant and unwilling to blindly follow orders, he gets mad at Asa when she tells him not to think, harkening back to that great moment with Makima, and he's just more willing to think for himself, but he's still susceptible to the whimsy of girls. I love the scene where he and Asa are on a date, and she's rattling on about sea life, and it turns out, despite his expression, he actually paid attention to her speech, and gave her starfish to eat. He might have a crush on her, or he may just see power in her, and either way, it's really cute, and I'm all for it. Our boy has grown up, and we're watching it happen in real time, and I, for one, could not be happier. I'll admit, I didn't expect this video to be so long, but I really love Denji and Chainsaw Man as a whole, and I'm tired of people boiling him down to just a horny teenager. It became prevalent following the release of the anime, and it's just disheartening when there's so much more to him than just that. He's a brash and rude kid with a one-track mind. He's apparently inspired by Fujimoto himself, but he still has his human heart. He laughs with us and cries with us. He has hopes, dreams, and fears just like any other character. His coping mechanisms may be unconventional, but Chainsaw Man in general is unconventional. It's a sloppy mess of a series that I absolutely adore, and I really hope that this video made you see Denji in a different light. Or if you already like Denji, I hope this video made you like him even more, because he's a good kid, and he genuinely deserves the world. Thank you all so much for watching, and take care.